Hello everyone and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. As the show began, Hope was at Forrester Creations, busy adorning a model while Brooke stood on the sidelines, nodding yay or no to her choices. When Liam texted, Brooke pushed her daughter to chase after him while keeping an open mind and heart. "We both know you love Liam," she added. When Donna entered the showroom, she and her sister wondered if Hope and Liam were making up for lost time after his brain tumor was proven to be, well, non-existent. Brooke then explained Hope's feelings for Liam to anyone who didn't already know. "I get it. So now we all know." Liam proposed to Hope alone with Hope at Brooke's. Liam stated that spending time with Beth as a family mattered as much to him as it did to their daughter. "I know what I want from the rest of my life," he said, getting ready to propose, "and who I want to spend it with." As they sat, Liam recalled that it was in that very room that Hope realized he was dying in air quotes. The brain tumor was fictitious, but the emotions surrounding the near miss were genuine. He then reminded Hope that she had committed to stay with him until the very end. Was the offer still valid now that he no longer had one foot in the grave? From there, Liam recapped briefly, and Hope assured him that she would always love him. "Every day without you feels wasted," he told me. "I have put you through a lot. I am aware of this. And all I can promise is that you will never have to question my commitment to you again." He then brought out an engagement ring. "What do you mean you say yes and I instantly become the happiest man on the planet?" Was there any doubt Hope would say yes? "Thank you for giving me the chance to be your husband again," he told her. Here's Hope the fourth time is a charm for these two. Lee went to meet Sheila in the flat above Il Giardino after she threatened to murder Taylor. They were both shocked that the doctor hadn't already been fired from the hospital, especially since Bill was after her. The conversation then shifted to Sheila's marital issues and the fact that Taylor was counseling Deacon. Given all of the circumstances, Lee was surprised that the shrink had accepted Deacon as a client. "If anyone can get to his heart," Sheila continued, "it's Taylor." If only she knew. Later, Sheila remembered witnessing her husband embrace his therapist. Was Lee referring to her unique way of touching her patients? More. Photos from Annika Noel's amazing honeymoon. As the program came to a close, Lee asked Sheila directly if she was concerned Deacon would cheat on her with another woman. "No," Sheila replied, "but it had best not be with Taylor if he strayed. If they ever did anything inappropriate," the madwoman added, "I'd kill her." Deacon and Taylor compared notes as Bridge roadkill at Taylor's office. She amazed that Deacon had been paying attention during their sessions and therefore realized he had to make his own marriage decision. He quickly flipped the script and inquired about Taylor's well-being. After all, he and the therapist were both roadkill from Brooke and Ridge. And wasn't it good to see Taylor grin for once? Deacon advised Taylor to accept her grief, process it, and make place for fresh delight, something bigger, better. Taylor tried to justify Ridge's waffling, but revealed that this time she was certain they'd be together for good. He simply never keeps his obligations. Deacon then embraced a distraught Taylor and encouraged her to let go. Could they have looked more like they were going to kiss? According to the bold and the beautiful spoilers, Liam Spencer, Scott Clifton, realizes that abandoning Hope Logan, Annika Noel, was a mistake. However, when he presents her with an engagement ring, the momentum toward genuine reconciliation grows. Their last marriage ended in 2023, which seems like an eternity in soap opera time. Devoted watchers who saw the teaser ring scene had patiently waited for this reunion, knowing that reinventing a prior triangle was unlikely to happen during the daytime. Steffi Forrester Finnegan, Jacqueline McInnes Wood, will always take care of Liam. Her love is and will always be John Finnegan, Tanner Novlin, and this fact of Californian life helps Liam stay focused on Hope. Should Steffi Forrester Finnegan be pursued? It was plausible to suppose Liam had chased and gotten her on numerous times, but this is no longer a realistic expectation. But Steffi is clearly in love with Finn, and they have a son together. B&B did not use Wood's recent real-life pregnancy as an opportunity for Steffi to conceive. It will be interesting to watch if this couple has other children in the future. Steffi and Finn will stay together for the foreseeable future. That naturally implies that Liam's other love is right for him. While Steffi was his first wife, he is a kid with hope, and his newfound desire to remarry her is real. Liam Spencer was affected by real and fake death chance. It felt like Liam was about to die. First, he was informed that a brain tumor would claim his life. However, that impending disaster was avoided because Grace Buckingham, Cassandra Creech, demonstrated to be the same type of so-called doctor as her ex-husband, Reese Buckingham, Wayne Brady. When bookmakers threatened her daughters, Grace gave in to their pressure. She deserves some grace for not starting that scenario like Reese did years ago. Telling Liam that he was dying but could benefit from experimental surgery was a horrible decision that should have been avoided. However, Grace's unethical decision was forced. Luna Nozawa, 2025 Daytime Emmy Award winner, Lisa Yamada, was naively released free by Liam's father, Bill Spencer, Don Diamont. That allowed Luna to enter Bill's beach house and shoot Liam in the chest. Fortunately, he escaped a gunshot that would have killed the majority of individuals in that version of Los Angeles, California. Hope Logan returns as Hope Spencer. Hope is aware that Carter Walton Lawrence St. Victor was and will continue to be a friend. If Carter died as a result of the bullet Luna fired into him, he would most likely become Hope's next husband and Beth Spencer's, Jordan Lynariza, stepfather. Liam lived, and Hope's plot took a turn. It became clear that she did not desire to marry Carter, but rather to rebuild their long-standing friendship and business relationship. This time feels different from previous renditions of Hope and Liam. He isn't coming back to her after Steffi. She has not been battling to reclaim his entire attention. They are merely two people who recognize that another opportunity is worth taking and that their family life can be reinvigorated by the clarity that love brings. Hope turned to face him, her hazel eyes reflecting the pale light of the setting sun. Liam Spencer stood before her, his jaw tight, his blue eyes searching hers for something, anything, that would bind him to her. He was attractive in that disheveled, serious way that had always made her heart throb, but today he had a new intensity, a desperation that threatened to tear them apart. "Liam, you know it's not that simple," she said softly, barely heard above the wind. "There is too much history, too much suffering." He moved closer, unafraid, his fingers stroking a strand of moist hair from her face. "I understand I've harmed you. I know I've made mistakes. But I know I adore you, Hope. I have always adored you. And I'm done allowing the past to define our future." She wanted to believe him. She really wanted to. However, the weight of their shared history weighed against her chest like a stone. The betrayals, the back and forth, the never-ending tug-of-war between her and Steffi Forrester had destroyed her spirit more times than she could count. And yet, here he was, offering her the one thing she'd always wanted, a promise. Liam dropped to one knee so quickly that she lost her breath. He took out a small velvet box from his pocket, his hands quivering as he opened it to reveal a ring, a plain band with a solitary diamond that reflected the fading light like a captured star. "Marry me, Hope," he whispered, his voice breaking with emotion. "Marry me, and we'll leave all this behind. Let's create something new and real. Just you and me." The world came to a halt for a little period. The wind, the waves, and the anguish in her breast all went away, leaving only Liam and the raw, unguarded optimism in his eyes. She could say yes. She could grab his hand and dive into the unknown, confident that this time would be different. But before she could speak, a shadow slid into the corner of her view. She turned, her heart pounding as she saw him, Thomas Forrester, standing at the edge of the garden, his dark eyes fastened on them with a cold, unwavering determination. He remained immobile, his hands deep into the pockets of his fitted coat, yet the air around him crackled with something menacing, making Hope's skin tingle. "Liam," she said quietly, her voice wavering not from the cold but from the sudden, visceral horror that gripped her. "We're not alone." Liam followed her gaze, his emotions altering from affection to defiance when he noticed Thomas. He stood, instinctively drawing Hope behind him, his body forming a barrier between her and the guy who had tormented their lives for years. "What do you want, Thomas?" Liam cried out, his voice crisp and cutting through the wind. This doesn't concern you. Thomas took a step forward, his motions methodical and almost predatory. The rain had darkened his hair, sticking to his forehead, but he made no attempt to push it away. His gaze shifted to Hope, and for a brief instant, something raw and injured appeared in his eyes before being smothered by a frightening resolve. "It concerns me more than you'll ever know," Thomas replied, his voice low and steady, each syllable tinged with a subtle malice. "Do you think you can just swoop in and take her? After everything? You do not deserve her, Liam. You never have." Hope's heart pounded in her chest, and her mind raced. Thomas had always been a complication, a looming presence on the outskirts of her life. He had loved her feverishly, recklessly, since they were teenagers. And, while she'd tried to believe he'd changed and gone on, the expression in his eyes told her differently. "Thomas, stop," she urged, coming forward from behind Liam, her voice harsher than she felt. "This is not about you. It is about me and Liam. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you believe you need to prove, let it go." Thomas's lips twitched, a bitter smile that did not reach his eyes. "Let it go," he repeated in a sarcastic tone. "Do you think I can just let it go? After all these years, Hope? After all I've done for you? I have waited. I have changed. I've become the man you said you wanted, yet you still prefer him?" Liam's fists clenched, his body tensed as if he were about to attack. "Back off, Thomas," he yelled. "You're no longer a part of this." Thomas turned to face Liam, and the air seemed to thicken with his rage. "You're wrong," he whispered, lowering his voice to a menacing whisper. "I am more a part of this than you would ever realize. And if you think I'll let you take her from me, you're very mistaken." Hope's breath seized in her throat. Thomas's tone, something definite, sent shivers down her spine. She had seen him angry and hurt before, but this was different. This was a man teetering on the brink of something horrible and irreparable. "Liam, let's go," she urged, taking his arm and spoke urgently. "We need to leave. Now." However, Liam did not move. His eyes were fixed on Thomas, his mouth taut, and his body exuded hostility. "I'm not running from him," he stated quietly and steadily. "Not this time." Thomas took another step forward, his gaze never leaving Hope. "You should listen to her, Liam," he urged, his tone almost soft now but tinged with chilling conviction. "Because if you don't, I will make you regret it. I'll make sure you're out of the picture for good." The threat hovered in the air like a heavy, foreboding rain cloud. Hope's heart raced, her thoughts racing with recollections of Thomas's past, his obsession, his manipulations, and the times he crossed lines she'd thought he'd never do again. She wanted to believe he was bluffing, that this was just another desperate attempt to keep her. But the gleam in his eyes convinced her otherwise. This was not a game. This was a man who had nothing more to lose. "Liam," she repeated, her voice breaking. "Please. Let's go." This time, Liam paused, his gaze shifting between Thomas and Hope. Finally, he nodded and squeezed her hand tightly. "Okay," he responded, his voice lower but still firm. "Let's go." They turned to leave, but Thomas's words halted them in their tracks. "This isn't over, Hope," he said, his words floating on the wind. "You can flee, but you cannot hide from what is coming. I'll do whatever it takes to get you to realize the truth." Hope did not glance back. She could not. She clutched Liam's hand as they sped toward the mansion, the rain falling faster, distorting the scene around them. But even as they approached the shelter of the house, the weight of Thomas's words lingered, a terrible promise following her like a shadow. Inside the estate, the warmth of the fire did little to alleviate Hope's discomfort. She sat on the edge of the velvet sofa, hands clutched tightly in her lap, as Liam paced the room, his agitation evident. "We need to do something about him," Liam stated, his voice tight with rage. "He won't stop, Hope. You overheard him. He's insane." Hope shook her head, her mind still racing. "He's not insane," she stated calmly. "He's broken. He's always broken when it comes to me." Liam paused his pacing, his gaze hardening as he looked at her. "Don't do that," he warned, his voice stern. "Do not defend him. Not after what he just said." I'm not defending him, Hope hissed, her wrath rising to the surface. I am trying to comprehend him. Because if we simply keep reacting, this will never stop. Liam ran a hand through his hair, his attitude softening as he noticed the terror in her eyes. He crossed the room and knelt in front of her, holding her hands in his. I'm sorry, he murmured, his tone softer now. I just can't lose you, Hope. Not to him. Not to anyone. Hope's throat clenched, and she reached out to touch his face, tracing the familiar creases on his jaw. You're not going to lose me, she murmured, her voice barely audible. But we cannot ignore this. Thomas isn't just going to disappear. And if he's willing to threaten you. She paused, unable to finish her statement. The prospect of Thomas actually carrying out his threat was too much to bear. She'd known him for a long time and could recognize his positive qualities when others couldn't. But this was different. She had never seen darkness like this before, and it terrified her. Liam's hands tightened around hers, his gaze searching for answers neither of them possessed. What do we do? He asked, his voice raw and vulnerable. How will we stop him? Hope did not have an answer. Not yet. But when she stared into Liam's eyes, she knew one thing for sure. Whatever happened next, they'd face it together. Alternatively, they would fall apart trying. The days that followed were a swirl of anxiety and unsaid dread. Hope tried to concentrate on her job at Forrester Creations, immersing herself in sketches and fabric samples, but Thomas's presence was unavoidable. He was everywhere, lurking in the halls and staring at her from across the design studio, his eyes filled with a calm intensity that made her skin crawl. He did not approach her or talk to her, but his silence was louder than any words. Meanwhile, Liam was on edge. He insisted on driving her to and from work, his gaze combing the streets for any trace of Thomas. He'd even hired a private investigator to look into Thomas's recent activities, though Hope had no idea what they planned to discover. Is there any evidence of his intentions? A plan? Or was it simply proof that he remained the man they had feared he would become? One evening, while Hope sat alone in her office, the door creaked open, causing her heart to race. But it was not Thomas. Steffi, her dark hair pulled back in a stylish ponytail, had an enigmatic countenance. Steffi, Hope remarked, her voice full of amazement. What are you doing here? Steffi closed the door behind her with cautious movements. We need to talk, she stated, her tone harsh. About Thomas. Hope's stomach turned. She and Steffi had never been friends. Too much history, too much shared grief over Liam. But they now had a grudging respect for each other, formed over years of traversing the same tangled web of love and loss. What about him? Hope inquired, though she was already dreading the answer. Steffi crossed her arms, and her gaze narrowed. He is losing it, Hope. I've seen it before, but this is unique. He isn't only enamored with you anymore. Hope slumped back in her chair and trembled slightly as she realized he was deadly. What do you mean by dangerous? Steffi paused, her gaze shifting to the window, as if looking for eavesdroppers. He's been talking to himself, she explained finally. Late at night, inside his apartment. I went to check on him, and I could hear him through the door. He was repeating your name like a mantra. And then he said something else, something about making sure Liam was gone for good. Hope's blood turned cold. Are you sure? She whispered. Steffi nodded, her face gloomy. I did not want to believe it either. He's my brother, Hope. I've always defended him and believed he could change. But this is not the Thomas the first know. He's sliding, and I'm afraid of what he'll do. Hope's mind raced, a mix of worry and remorse. She'd always known Thomas had strong feelings for her, but she never guessed they'd push him so far. Had she overlooked the signs? Had she been overly kind, forgiving, and blind to the truth? What do we do? She inquired, echoing Liam's remarks from days earlier. Steffi's jaw hardened, and Hope noticed the strong protectiveness that had always defined her. We stop him, she explained simply. Before he hurts anyone. Before he hurts you. The idea was hazardous, but it was the only option they had. Steffi advocated approaching Thomas directly, forcing him to face the consequences of his actions. Hope was hesitant. She had seen what happened when Thomas felt cornered, but Steffi insisted. "He's my brother," she explained. "If anyone can get through to him, it's me." They decided to meet Thomas at the Forrester estate, a neutral location where they could chat uninterrupted. Liam insisted on attending, despite Hope's pleas, and the four of them gathered in the great living room, the tension thick enough to strangle them all. Thomas arrived last, with a cautious expression as he took in the situation. Hope stood near the hearth, arms folded protectively across her breast. Liam remained by her side, his posture tight, his gaze never leaving Thomas. Steffi stood in the center of the room, commanding attention and speaking in a firm tone. If you want to see the second part of this, please provide feedback in the comment section.